Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar on Reduce Coder Burnout with AI-powered medical coding solutions from MediCodio. My name is Praveen. I head the marketing team at MediCodio. Today, I will be the moderator for this webinar. Before we start, I would like to give you a little information on how this platform works. All of the attendees would be in a listen-only mode. In case of any questions or clarifications required, I would request you to please drop a message in the chat window or in the Q&A section. Before we end the session, that is at the end of the webinar, we will be having a Q&A session where we will be answering all the questions that has been placed in the Q&A section or in the chat window. So I request all the audience to please drop down your questions in the chat window or in the Q&A section. Before I hand over the control to our speaker today, Jessica Miller, I would like to give a brief introduction about Jessica. Jessica has an MHA from the University of South Carolina, and Jessica is an RCM professional with 20 plus years of experience in healthcare industry. Jessica is a coding manager for a team of multi-specialty coders for large outsourced coding company. Jessica is also a certified coder since 2010 and an approved instructor from 2023. Jessica is nationally recognized speaker on AI and ML technology integration for healthcare. As of now, Jessica works as a subject matter expert for MediCodio. I would also like to request the audience to follow us on our social channel on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for more updates. Without much of an ado, let's jump into this webinar today. Over to you, Jessica.
Excellent. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to be covering the topic of how to reduce coder burnout with artificial intelligence-powered assistive medical coding solutions, such as the one we offer here at MediCodio. I am Jessica Miller. I am the subject matter expert at MediCodio. I have been with the company since its inception in 2021, mainly responsible for understanding the data sets, applying that technology and learning into the artificial intelligence, going through the environments for user functionality, and then, of course, overseeing all of our implementation and onboarding processes with our customers. I have been a certified coder since 2010. I actually got my certification just before the switch over to ICD-9. So I'm, well aware of all of the challenges and hurdles that we have to face as medical coders in our industry. So before we go forward, I always like to cover what I mean, since I'm using these terms a lot in my presentations. What exactly is AI, ML, RPA, and API? Now, artificial intelligence is the theory and development of computer systems that are able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Think of things like visual perception or the face recognition in your smartphone. We also have speech recognition. Alexa and Siri are now household names. Decision-making and content creation, like we see from ChatGPT. And then, of course, translation language services. All of those technologies incorporate some type of artificial intelligence to perform their functions. And we're already seeing artificial intelligence applied in decision-making in healthcare, but I would argue it's going to be appropriate to add task performance to this list. There's so much going on in the field of automations and robotic surgeries, serving and ordering, but that could be covered in a whole other presentation. We're going to focus specifically on artificial intelligence and the technologies around it that allow us to provide AI-assistive medical coding tools. ML stands for machine learning, which is the use and development of computer systems that are able to learn and adapt without following explicit instructions, using algorithms or statistical models to analyze and draw inferences from patterns in that data. This is the science that allows artificial intelligence technology to improve over time. Aside from its growing prominence in healthcare tech applications, machine learning is also very familiar in our everyday lives in our use of social media, banking and finance applications, and even commute prediction if you've used things like Google Maps or Wazi. Now, RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation and is a form of business process automation technology that's based on metaphorical software robots or artificial intelligence digital workers. These are often referred to as bots, and they work in the invisible space of computer data processing, but they're able to perform those remedial and learned tasks. Think of things like automated customer service call centers or payroll processing when you're looking for everyday life examples. And then finally, we have API, which is Application Programming Interface. And this is the set of defined rules that enable different applications to communicate with each other. This acts as that intermediary layer that processes the data transfers between systems, letting companies open their application data and functionality to external third-party developers or vendors, business partners, and even internal department sharing within the companies. Basically, it's technology that allows data sharing between systems. We're familiar with this in our everyday lives through our use of processes like Spotify, Netflix, and even Twitter bots. And now, as we know, the revenue cycle is many steps. To break it down specifically, the revenue cycle in healthcare refers to the entire process of managing a patient's account, from the initial appointment or encounter to the final payment of any balance due. Pre-encounter is going to involve the appointment scheduling, where prior authorizations are obtained, insurance is verified, and anything required to get that patient either into the facility or physician office. Of course, then the encounter happens where the physician performs the work of seeing the patient, writing that documentation, and performing any of those functions that are required for the next phase in the coding and billing. Coding and billing is a process we're all very familiar with. We're required to review and analyze those charts, select appropriate codes, and apply those to charges or claims so that those can be submitted for reimbursement. And then obviously after successful submission of the claim, we anticipate payments to be processed. There may be additional follow-up or denial management that has to happen, and the time-intensive step of contacting and collecting anything from the patient. Coding and billing specifically, of course, is the transformation of those diagnoses, procedures, and services into our standardized codes. We have CPTs, ICDs, HCPCS, and modifiers that are used to accurately describe and document the services that we render to our patients. We understand that accurate coding is essential for proper billing, claim submission, and reimbursement. And all of this ensures the services provided are properly documented and classified for those payment purposes. Medical coders and billers are tasked with all of the responsibilities for assigning those appropriate codes based on the information in the patient's medical record. And if only it was as simple as reading the operative report or the physician documentation and having everything we need. We know there's additional steps in verifying code guidelines, payer requirements, anything specific that's related to the physician documentation needs to be verified. If there are any questions, of course, we have processes for follow-up on that. And all of our expertise is based on our deep understanding of medical terminology and anatomy, and our training on those coding guidelines so we can accurately translate records into medical codes. We know that all of these things are time intensive, and bundled up with current coding industry challenges, there's a lot of opportunity for us to incorporate artificial intelligence to alleviate those burdens. Before I cover that a little bit more in detail, let's talk about some of the industry challenges that we're facing and why artificial intelligence might have potential in those areas. Of course, the first thing we're looking at is the lack of talent. We don't have enough medical coders to meet the current need, and there are specialties or certifications that are in significant need of coders. We don't have enough of those coders certified under those specialties. Growth records or job growth for medical records and health information technicians is projected to continue growing at least by 13% up until 2026. So we know that that lack of talent or workforce shortage will remain at least for the foreseeable future. Tied to that workforce shortage is a backlog of charts. Along with the increased demand for healthcare services during COVID, we had that kind of impacting each other where we had a lot of extra patient visits, a lot of extra coding and claim submission and follow-up that needed to be done, and a lack of those individuals to perform that work. That's an opportunity for artificial intelligence to replace or to fill some of those gaps and needs. Additionally, we're tasked with keeping up with code changes. Every October, we get the information for the new code set, and we have a few short months before we have to implement those into our billing and coding processes. This might involve steps such as educating the providers, changing information in the EHR system, or even reaching out to payers for new code changes and ensuring reimbursement if a group or code set changes. Specifically related to coding issues, we have some errors that come from not coding to the highest level of specificity, due to a number of factors, whether documentation or a lack of complete data, all of those impacting our number of claims and our accounts receivables. Overcoding and undercoding can happen due to routine application of codes based on rote memory or charge master billing and super bill billing. Having those certified individuals who can really explore and review the documentation ensures that these types of errors can be minimized. And then unbundling or improper modifier usage. We might have instances where we're missing out on reimbursement due to a misunderstanding of a payer's guideline for a modifier, or misuse for a modifier, or maybe even missing a modifier for payment. And then, of course, a big thing now also is that clinical documentation improvement. Physicians are really starting to understand, especially with natural language processing, that what they're saying in their documentation matters and leads to those final code selections. So we have a lot of opportunities to identify gaps in that data analysis and in that documentation to improve and make the processes easier. So as I mentioned, there are several steps in arriving at those medical codes that are time intensive. Thinking specifically about things like NCCI edits, we're having to either navigate to additional sites, pull that code information, understand the spreadsheet, when the rationale is provided, what modifier might be possible to apply. So all of that requiring additional time in review of the chart. LCD verifications, understanding that the linking for an ICD impacts a CPT's potential payment, maybe having to communicate that information to the provider, navigating to the CMS website to find that information, look up the specific code, read the article and understand the information that it's transmitting to you. All of that time intensive and also requiring, some significant thought process time. Code research can be time intensive. Looking for additional code information. Again, having to navigate to an additional resource, pull out your print manuals, pull out any of your specialty coding books, finding that specific chart or code information and understanding how that might impact your code choice for the documentation you're looking at. Coders, after all of this process, we're analyzing the chart, we're pulling the documentation, we're questioning the physician if there's things that are unclear or could be clarified for better reimbursement purposes. After all of that point, we finally arrived at our codes, and in most instances, we're also tasked with that charge entry. So we're spending additional time after we've finalized our code selections in entering this data into EHR systems so claims can be created and submitted for payment. As we understand, the repetitive and manual nature of these tasks can lead to coder burnout. And burnout is a state of emotional, physical, or mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. Burnout reduces productivity, saps your energy, and can leave individuals and employees feeling hopeless, helpless, cynical, or resentful of their positions. We are highly trained individuals. We've got extensive knowledge and experience in medical coding, in that anatomy, in the guidelines, in compliance processes, in auditing processes. And even if these aren't direct or skill sets or job roles, you know more than you think you do in terms of having conversations with physicians and providers about how to improve all these processes. We want to feel engaged in this so that we're not burnt out on those, again, medial or non-value added tasks in our organization. And so artificial intelligence can play a significant role in reducing medical coder burnout through various means. The first and foremost portion that it's valuable in is automating those non-value added tasks. Things like code assignment and data entry can be automated to reduce those manual processes and tedious entry for coders. Artificial intelligence can also enhance accuracy and reduce errors by identifying potential coding errors and suggesting corrections. It reduces the cognitive load on coders to find and identify and understand all of those linkage and challenges. Artificial intelligence improves efficiency, streamlining those workflow processes and automating those non-value added and manual tasks allows coders to focus their energy on other complex problem solving. Artificial intelligence can also facilitate continuous learning of your coders. They're providing real-time feedback and training on specific code sets and understanding of impacts on code selection to the report. Artificial intelligence also optimizes workflow. It can do so through the management of task prioritization. So we can automate the assignment of certain case sets or charge types to ensure that certain things would be processed in a matter of time. Whatever follows the most efficient manner for getting those codes assigned and the claim submitted. And anything along that way that can be automated or decided with artificial intelligence will bring in that optimization. It can also reduce administrative burden by providing that documentation assistance and compliance monitoring. There are artificial intelligence solutions out there that take on these roles and again alleviate that burden and cognitive workload for the coder or billing manager. And as I mentioned, that artificial intelligence will reduce coder burnout and enhance job satisfaction because it's reducing the repetition and allows us to use our subject matter expertise to focus on more complex and intellectually stimulating aspects of the job. Leveraging these artificial intelligence capabilities, medical coders can experience a more efficient, less stressful, and more satisfying work environment and significantly reduce that risk of burnout. And so looking at artificial intelligence and how we can address those issues specifically, the first thing that many systems are looking to do is automate those processes. Automated workers, digital worker bots, automated NCCI edits and LCD verifications, automation of manual and tedious charge entry processes can supplement the workforce and reduce the backlog of coding. Another thing EHR systems are doing is that automatic updated code set maintenance. But what you might not understand is that all of that is usually done through a licensure agreement with the software or AMA, and that cost is generally passed on to the customer through their use of the platform. So while they're providing those updated code sets, the knowledge base and learning and understanding in the application of the new coding guidelines that come with that code set still fall on the responsibility of the coder and could be a manual or time-intensive task that could be easily automated. We also have real-time analysis of documentation. So computer-assisted coding programs that are already in existence are great tools to aid in code selection. They have databases and storehouses of information related to coding guidelines, RVU calculations, but they're again limited to those licensure, point and click, and predetermined inputs. So while this is real-time analysis of documentation, there's still dependence on human intelligence and analysis to arrive at a potential code selection. This is where MediCodio comes in as your AI-powered medical coding assistant. We have developed a solution that utilizes RPA and API integrations to transfer data into our coding engine. We incorporate our artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to review that documentation and provide a suggested medical code. At this point, a subject matter expert, medical coder, biller, or provider user can come into our system, validate the suggestions from the engine, and begin to build the claim data. Once they've finalized their claim information and code selections, that information is saved to an EMR chart record, which can be automatically transferred back to the billing system, reducing the manual workload for charge entry and tedious processes in the coding workflow. Some fast facts about MediCodio is that we were founded in 2021 by technology entrepreneurs Umesh and Raj Vajma. They saw a real opportunity to use that artificial intelligence to read and analyze information and bring in efficiency and accuracy in the coding processes. We are used by coders in revenue cycle management companies, ambulatory surgery centers, physician offices, and hospitals to streamline their workflow processes and reduce the cognitive workload and time spent on arriving at a code selection and applying code guidelines in building claim data. We are practice management, dictation, EHR, provider type, and specialty agnostic. We have the complete ICD, CPT, HCPC, and modifier code sets, regardless of setting, specialty, or provider type, and are able to provide and analyze a code suggestion as long as it's a valid code for reporting of 2021 and onward. Because of that, we also have a complete code set dictionary and automated NCCI and LCD verifications. Our coder users are able to have at their fingertips direct analysis of the code selections they're making in order to verify the accuracy and billing requirements. And we are located in Pleasanton, California, with additional software and support offices in Bangalore, India. Now, some of the benefits of incorporating artificial intelligence coding solution like MediCodio is not needing to train your staff on attrition due to the RPA and API integrations. Bot processes perform those remedial tasks as instructed, and unless there's a change in the process, the bot will continue to follow those functions until, again, there is a change or need for a new process. So coder users do not have to learn the EMR practice management system. They log directly into our software platform and perform all their coding functions there. Nothing changes about the coding process. They simply need familiarity with navigating through our system. As I mentioned, because we have that complete code set dictionary and automated NCCI and LCD verifications, our software or coder users are saving time navigating to additional websites and not needing those additional code search tools or software licenses to perform their job functions. We've built everything within our platform, so you don't need to navigate to additional site. You don't lose your spot in your coding processes. And again, that information can be automatically verified through our artificial intelligence process. We increase coding team efficiency, saving time in that tedious data entry. Our user platform is point and click, reducing the need for manual or typed in code suggestions. Coding teams can focus directly on the engine suggested codes. So they're no longer needing to increase their cognitive workload to arrive at a code selection. They see the suggestions from the artificial intelligence engine and are able to verify or ascertain if that's the appropriate code. And then, of course, we increase their efficiency over time with that machine learning and subject matter expertise intervention. A simple example of this is where the engine might suggest 2 or 3 codes for a certain procedure type through the initial run. That subject matter expertise or coder intervention is going to tell the engine which code is appropriate for that documentation type. And the engine is going to learn that information and present only those appropriate code selections in the next run. And of course, we also can increase that coding team accuracy. Our engine provides the initial analysis of the documentation, and those subject matter experts and coder users start to take on more of an auditing or biller role in understanding which guidelines need to be applied in making a code selection. And then if there's additional claim creation steps to be made, they have the capability to intervene there. Just to kind of review here as well, while some current artificial intelligence softwares are only useful in certain settings or specialties, the technology itself is growing more prevalent across all spectrums, from caregiver site to billing agency. So of course, MediCodio wanted to be applicable for use by coders in these various settings, and possibly exploring its use in other capabilities in areas like auditing, clinical documentation improvement, and payer adjudication. So healthcare facilities are using MediCodio to supplement their workforce and increase efficiency and reduce claim turnaround time. Revenue cycle management companies are adopting AI solutions as assistive technologies for their coding teams, having all of that information in one spot for coding resources. And then individual medical coders are supercharging their coding processes by automating those workflows and accelerating their code selection. Again, reducing those non-value-added tasks and tedious manual entry processes that we were previously required to perform. And now Codio is different from those other automated coding solutions out there because we do require that subject matter expertise intervention, and our artificial intelligence actually reads and analyzes the documentation and patient demographics to provide the most appropriate code suggestion. We determine our accuracy on our level of correct code assignments selected by the user to the engine. So while there are other platforms out there working on an accuracy level that's based on confidence, for how confident the engine is in that code selection, then those codes might not need manual intervention. We have that extra layer of subject matter expertise intervention to verify the code selection every time. And so what that looks like in a current workflow process is that Codio integrates with the EHR system or documentation wherever the chart information is housed with RPA or API integrations. And our bot processes will look for and retrieve the patient documentation. This can be operative reports, physician notes, pathology, lab, telehealth records, whatever is appropriate for that setting or specialty. Our bot will identify that documentation and pull it over into our coding engine. At this point, the code engine analyzes those data fields and provides the appropriate suggestion for a CPT, ICD, HCPC, or modifier as relevant again to that specialty or service being provided. Our engine showcases those suggestions where our subject matter expertise intervention comes in and finalizes those selections. They can pick from the code suggested from the engine, and then when they're ready, they finalize those claim details to begin seeing the automated processes for the NCCI and LCD verifications. They perform the linkings, they apply the units, and then once they've verified the claim data is correct, they save that information to our EMR chart results record. That's when our Codio processes pick back up and automate the transfer of that data back to the billing system, either through RPA or API integration. And of course, as I mentioned, we have that machine learning. So Codio improves over time by understanding the feedback from the subject matter expertise intervention and narrowing down those code suggestions as relevant to its learning processes. I'd like to just showcase exactly how our AI coding engine and RPA software performs these functions. This video does not have any sound. There is some text, but I will also talk along with it to kind of explain what you're seeing. So this is our Codio assistant. Of course, we can determine that he's a little imaginary friend. He's looking for the documentation. In this case, we have an operative report, and it's trying to find the relevant diagnosis and patient information. So how it's doing that is going into the EHR or dictation system, finding that record that's ready for review, navigating to the patient document and downloading it, extracting those relevant data points for analysis to arrive at a code selection, and then providing those code suggestions to the medical coder. So just to recap specific features for our platform, as I mentioned, we are able to read data from various EHRs. We don't have a standard or required template or type. We work off the documentation provided by the customer. That medical code prediction, again, is specialty, facility, type agnostic. We have the complete code sets and are able to analyze and provide code suggestions regardless of setting or specialty. Because of that dictionary, we have those in-house CPT and ICD search functions. Even within the coding of the case, a coder user can navigate to the CPT and pull up relevant information in ascertaining if it's the appropriate selection. Those automatic LCD and NCCI edit checks happen throughout the coding process so that the coder can be notified and aware of any changes that might impact the claim creation. I'll also showcase our detailed dashboards for our supervisors. This shows productivity and utilization of the system. So we have specific reports for coder users to show how many cases they were assigned and what was completed, how that TAM management might have been split between different assignments related to specialty types or providers. But also dashboards showing where these cases are coming from, what facilities or providers and what specialty types of cases are being brought into the engine and analyzed. So you can quickly see the health of your organization and what's coming through in terms of coding guideline. Also spent significant time making this easy to use, automating those charge entries and having that API integration. And of course, also very important for anyone dealing with patient information, we are HIPAA compliant and certified through FedRAMP, and also all of those additional security certificate layers that are required to ensure compliance. Now we offer our solution in two modules to bring in that optimization. From a software as a service perspective, you are going to have direct access to the software. Your coder users will finalize all the claim data and have direct integration into the coding system. We will integrate with the workflow to transfer the data automatically, but we cut around the coding turnaround time and increase the efficiency and accuracy of your coders by providing those potential code suggestions. Medical coding as a service is going to be a complete end-to-end outsourced solution where our in-house coders utilize the technology to perform the work of the final code selection. The level of integration is determined based on how much of the charge process you want to automate or what you would like to prefer to do manually. This allows our customers to scale effortlessly while reducing operational costs because we are allowed to intake additional volumes without the need for overhead or new systems. So 2 ways to be able to incorporate our solutions, whether you already have an existing team or are looking to supplement your existing team. A number of ways that our artificial intelligence can be utilized. And again, to recap that our clients are seeing that improved efficiency and code accuracy through saving time in that tedious data entry with our RPA and API integrations. Coders are only needing to review the suggested codes and approve or verify the information coming from the engine. We're not having any learning curves on new systems or attrition. Our bot processes will perform those functions unless there's a change in that process. So coder users are only needing to learn and navigate through our platform, which does not change anything in their coding processes. It's just familiarity of using the system. And then we have that increased efficiency as Codio is going to improve over time through that machine learning feedback. And with the use of this technology, of course, we are able to perform faster report processing. Chart analysis of complex documentation, something that might have several pages in the record, could take a traditional cognitive timeline of about 10 minutes. And we're seeing that reduced to under 1 or 2 minutes with the artificial intelligence analysis. That is going to wrap up the PowerPoint portion of our presentation. I'm going to spend the last 15 minutes going through our actual system and showcasing what it would look like to perform your medical coding within our platform. I'd also like to point out that you can connect with us at MediCodio.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Or if you also have additional questions, I'll certainly be making time for that at the end of the presentation. But if you're not comfortable in explaining or presenting something in a group setting, you can certainly reach out to me individually through my email at medicodio.com or on LinkedIn as well. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of that and bring up our Dynamics environment. Of course, that would happen. I know. Just a moment here while we get back in. There we are. Into the dashboard. So coder users will access our Microsoft Dynamics platform for the MediCodio dashboard. This is the landing page for the coder users and supervisor users. And as I mentioned, it's showcasing all of the information needed to understand the workflow in the system. This is showing us all of our operative charts by status reason, a number of status reasons available for that coder user, cases that are ready for review that have been analyzed and processed, cases that are completed would showcase, things that need additional information or requests or queries from the physician can be put into a manual intervention status. So a number of ways to categorize those cases within our platform to understand what needs to be done on the charge. Also showcasing those operative charts by location and specialty type, so specific provider counts, maybe wanting to know which EMR system if you're in a multi-system hospital or multi-practice setting, you're able to see and count where those charts are coming from, which physicians and which providers are producing records. Our module is broken up into two brains. Our operative charts handles all of the surgical coding requirements, and our evaluation and management charts is where all of the evaluation and management, physician office, telehealth, etc. would be analyzed. Coder user, after their dashboard, is going to navigate into their queue assignment. I'm just going to go here into our operative charts and pull up a case, for example. Here we see all of the information that the artificial intelligence has pulled from the record for analysis. We're also getting some of that patient documentation to understand if there's any guidelines that would need to be followed related to patient gender, age, or maybe even insurance. We have our description of procedure, we get our pre and post-op diagnosis, and then of course we get the suggestions from the engine's analysis. Coder users will click on the CPT to select and add it to the record, at which point they do get that NCCI edit. So I have selected two codes just to showcase. This is the example, and it would tell you if a modifier was allowed and the rationale behind it. Coder users then can continue to add that CPT or back out and perform other functions. They make their ICD, their CPT, and their modifier selections, at which point all of that is finalized into the EMR audit record. And this is the information that we'll see manually transferred back into the charge creation system. Additional tabs up here showcase other information that might be necessary for coding, so coder users have everything directly at their fingertips. And as I mentioned, if at any point they need to come and search for specific code information, we have our universal search bar, and they can click on that CPT and see everything needed in relevance to the CPT selection. We are giving them all of the information related to that code type, clinical responsibility. We have our standalone NCCI edits if they need to review and verify information there. And then within our general, all of the official descriptions. We've also created customization. So if you have a physician who is saying something either with an acronym or shorthand, perhaps that doesn't meet the official description, you will find that you can put that information here in the alias, and it will increase the chances that code would be presented if that type of documentation came. Here they can click back and go directly back to the case they were working in. So no pop-ups needed, no additional navigation to other websites, no losing your place in the case to review the information. We also have our timeline and tracking. Here's where the coder user can make notes back to the provider, or where all of the touch points are tracked when there's been any change or modification to the record. These are showcasing all of those exclusion and LCD warnings and additional NCCI edits. So we can track here and see what was performed on the claim and what impact that had. Looking over in our E&M charts, these are analyzed in the same way, but wanted to showcase that we do have our standalone evaluation and management calculator. This can be MDM or time-based. If a chart is coming through the system for artificial intelligence analysis, we can make presets on these selections so that the same standard is used every time. And we also have all of these filled in for easy point and click. So none of that manual typing in, no transfer of the data, just verifying the information you put in matches the record. Once you've filled out all those data points, we calculate that MDM level and you get a final potential code result. And last but not least, to showcase those reports, as I mentioned, we do have that user productivity report, which is going to showcase all of that coder user's activities in the system, showing them the cases that are ready to review, what's been completed, how that compares to previous days or other users in the system, and then time management for their assignments specific to whether facility or subscriber or specialty users. And then also, as I mentioned, those EMR chart results. So we do advise on using an API or RPA process, but we do keep all of this information also available in a number of different formats for manual entry. So coder users or supervisors, if they need to do additional analysis of claim or code information, can come into our EMR report and export this in a number of ways. Otherwise, we employ those API processes to transfer the user-selected information back into the claim billing system. So these data points would be entered exactly as they are into the system so that the claims could be posted and submitted. So overall, from a workflow perspective, coder users come into our platform. They review their assignments and what's required for their workflow for the day. they navigate to the module to see their case assignments. Here we have filters. They can prioritize newer to older dates of service, look for specific things in certain settings if they need to focus on cases that are only ready for review, or maybe have additional physician information that's been provided. After they make their code selections, that information is saved to that EMR report, at which point those automatic processes transfer that data back in. So again, seeing that efficiency and code accuracy with the introduction of artificial intelligence in our medical coding processes. And now I would love to open the floor and take any questions or comments. Happy to have a discussion while we have these last few minutes together.
We have a question from Channa. The question goes like this: is the engine applicable for all specialties of coding? Does a corporate payer-specific guidelines by assessing the information available in Google?
That is an excellent question. So while it does have customization capabilities, it doesn't know what it's not trained on. So if this is payer-specific guidelines coming from our customers, we need to be notified of that information so it can be built into the process systems. We have trained our current platform on all of the CMS, AMA, APC, standard guidelines that apply for coding and claim selection, code selection and claim creation. But of course, we're aware that different localities, different carriers, different payers might require certain modifiers or specifications for codes or code ordering. So all of that information, if given to us during the implementation process, can be built into the code engine understanding. That is more of a difficult thing for it to learn because it has to draw those inferences of insurance types to provider types. But it's easily solved with building it directly into the platform's knowledge base.
Right. Thank you so much. We have another question. The question goes like this: what is the accuracy of the engine without the SME intervention?
That is an excellent question. And that actually also varies based on the specialty and data set types that we have. Currently, if we are taking on a new provider type or a new specialty, our accuracy rates are around 85% for our ICD, our CPT, and our modifiers. Over time, we generally see those increasing to about 95 to 96%. And that again is kind of based on that engine's confidence. So the engine has enough data to be confident in its selection of about 97% or 98% accuracy. I never like to say 100%, but of course, that subject matter expertise intervention is coming in and verifying that information. And there are certain specialties, of course, where the documentation may be consistent or repetitive, and we can reach that full-scale automation at 100% confidence.
Right. Thank you so much. We have another question. What specific guidelines do these products follow?
That's an excellent question. There are a number of answers to this, of course. Specifically in terms of the coding guidelines, as I mentioned, we're following all of the CMS, the AMA, the AAPC, the WHO. So anything that's written in specifically about a code determination or code information is directly built into our platform. Customization or specific guidelines for certain compliance programs, certain payers, all of that has to be written into the documentation or written into the program during that implementation phase. So when we're taking on a new customer, we generally understand that this is going to be more of a partnership than a, business and customer relationship, because we are bringing in those process efficiencies, which requires a great understanding of your current processes. So we do a lot of quality assurance in determining, what guidelines you are following. Are we bringing over the appropriate information? And again, all of that being covered during that implementation.
Right. Thank you so much. There is another question. The question goes like this: can outputs be customized for client-specific requirements?
Yes. Um, Currently, through our Dynamics platform, we do have some restrictions on the way we can customize and showcase output data. But any changes or variations in relation to how they want the reports to look, we'll be able to achieve in our next version, which is coming out here in, I think, just a week's time. So in our MediCodio 2.0, we'll have even greater customization for the layouts of the charts, for the filterings, settings, making it even easier for coders to navigate and find information in the platform.
So let's take is artificial intelligence.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Is artificial intelligence?
Ah, yes, automation through RPA, API, those are all types of artificial intelligence. I know in healthcare we feel like we're using that word pretty loosely, but it is a broad reaching terminology. Artificial intelligence, as I mentioned, any of those systems that allow for automation of the processes or the use of technology intelligence to arrive at a decision or to create content. So yes, automated coding is a type of artificial intelligence, but there are systems out there that are using it in different ways. So they may be artificial intelligence powered because they're just an automation, but a system like MediCodio is actually taking additional layers of artificial intelligence, like machine learning, deep machine learning, um, those neural networks, all of that enhances the artificial intelligence ability to analyze data and arrive at code suggestions. So while automating processes is definitely artificial intelligence, MediCodio is looking to take it another step through incorporation of other types of artificial intelligence to analyze documentation and provide efficiency and code accuracy.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I think we're getting a lot of questions. I would like to bring up another question for you.
Sure.
The question goes like this: the 85% of accuracy is for all the specialties, or does it vary?
That is our average across all. And again, that's going to be when we're taking in documentation that our engine has never had to analyze. For specialties where we have large data sets or customers who are doing large volumes, we're able to see that accuracy increase exponentially. And in even some of those targets, having accuracy of 90 to 95% in that first run, just based on, again, that familiarity with the nuances, the verbiage, having a really strong knowledge base for that specialty type. All of those things can impact the accuracy of a potential code suggestion in that first run.
All right. Thank you so much for answering these questions. We have, however, because of the time constraint, we'll be answering all of your questions offline on email. Thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We really appreciate everyone joining us today. And again, remember, if you've got additional questions, you can find us on LinkedIn. MediCodio.com is our website. And there are also links there if you're interested in connecting with one of us for a demonstration of the product. We can go in more in-depth and answer specific questions about your setting or processes. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.